If you're curious about getting your breast biopsy, I'd love to share my journey so you know what to expect. Like you, I scoured the internet and tried to get real life stories of women who had experienced or gone through a breast biopsy so I could plan and prepare mentally for what I was going to get into. So the story is going to be broken down into 5 parts. So I want to tell you about my journey to getting the breast biopsy, the actual procedure, my personal experience, what happened, aftercare, and the aftermath of my personal experience. So my personal experience, I think, is atypical than other people, and it's certainly not meant to scare anyone. But I do want to share my story. A couple of months ago, I felt a lump in my breast, and it was, I thought, maybe hormonal. Even though it wasn't normal for me, I thought maybe it was hormonal. I gave it about a week and it was still there. So I had to go get lab work. And at the place where the lab is, there is a walk-in clinic. So I just walked in just to set my mind at ease. But the doctor said, you need to go get a mammogram. So she wrote me an order to get a mammogram. I went and I got the mammogram. It was about a week and a half later. And they said, yep, we see a lump. We're just going to send you right over across the hall to get an ultrasound just to make sure they can see it a little closer. So I did that, went across the hall, got the ultrasound. The ultrasound tech said, yes, we see a lump. Let's bring a radiologist in here and he can tell you next steps. So, and I've gotten mammograms before. I actually get them annually, and they come back clear. So it's currently September. I had my annual mammogram in January. It was clear. I felt a lump early August, and kind of through August is when this whole thing played out. So the radiologist came in and said, yes, I see a lump and we'd like to biopsy it to see what's going on there. So 2 weeks later is when my biopsy was scheduled. And I didn't know what to expect. I knew that I didn't do well with needles. I think a lot of people don't do well with needles. And I was getting a core needle biopsy. So I talked to some people I knew that had had it done. And they said, it's no big deal. It's uncomfortable, but you go in, you get out, and it's fine. So they gave me a little bit more detail than that, but overall the sentiment was it's going to be fine. And so I went in, and I was nervous leading up to it, but I really try to push it to the back of my mind and think, the nerves aren't going to help me get over this. It's just going to make it worse. So I really try to talk myself down and just get through it. It's like, okay, even though I'm scared, I'm going to do this thing. So when I get there, the ultrasound tech, talks me through what's going to happen. The radiologist is going to come in. He's going to explain the procedure to you. He's going to clean you off, and then sterilize, numb, and then we'll do the core needle biopsy. So that's exactly what he did. He came in, he explained what he was going to do, and he started by, it was ultrasound guided. So the ultrasound tech was searching for the lump just to say, yes, it's still there. And they found it. And so then he said, okay, let's clean it. So he did some iodine, it was just like iodine wipes, cleaned it off. It was cold, but no big deal. And then he started numbing it, and he numbed it using lidocaine. And I could feel that it was uncomfortable, like bee stings, but in your breast. So it's, it's a little disorienting, but you could feel it. I started kind of, I wouldn't say hyperventilating, but I was really tracking my breathing. She could see the ultrasound tech could see that I was nervous, and she kept saying, okay, breathe in slow, breathe out slow, control your breathing. And I was doing all of that, and it made sense, and that's good. And then he said, okay, we're gonna, waited just like a minute for the numbing to kick in. And as he waited, he explained the next step, that the needle would go in, and then it's kind of like a guide needle goes in, and then another, like the biopsy part goes in, and then it's a loud clicking, like a loud snapping, like almost like an ear piercing gun. If you've ever had your ear pierced, that's what it sounds like when they grab the material. And he said, we're going to take 4 or 5 samples. So, okay, so I was all set up to know. So it was fairly numb then. And he said, why don't you look over? So I looked over at the ultrasound to see what was going on. And I felt it almost felt like a wet something. And I said, oh, what'd you just do? And he said, I had to nick you. So he did kind of nick my skin with a scalpel just to open it up a little bit to make room for that larger guide needle to go in. So I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's, so he put that in, and it did feel to me, it felt like, yeah, he was almost felt like, because you can feel the pressure, you can't feel the pain, but you can feel the pressure of a needle going in. And yeah, it definitely feels like it's going in deep, almost like he's pushing his finger in. And so it was uncomfortable. I took a deep breath to accept that and kind of like keep on mental track and not let it overwhelm me. So again, it's ultrasound guided. So he's guiding it and he's looking. And then he said, okay, I'm going to take a sample now. And then, yeah, you can feel that for sure. I definitely, it's not, again, not painful, but it's uncomfortable as it grabs the sample. It's loud. So I think that plus the pressure makes it feel painful, or at least it did for me. I don't know if that's everyone's experience. So as I was going on, he took about 3 samples, and he was getting ready for the 4th. And I was getting a little bit more nervous. The pain was really then like setting in for me. And so this is where the story is going to take a different turn. This is my experience, and I want to set this part of the story up and let people know that this is atypical. It absolutely does not happen to everyone. I also have something called vasovagal syncope, and that just means that I faint really easy when I feel pain. I also experience fainting when I'm easily surprised or have a strong emotion, or if I see pain in other people, or other people getting hurt, I faint. So I'm an easy fainter, and it's happened quite frequently in my life. So I did explain that to them before they started the procedure, and I said, I'll let you know if I'm getting there, because I can typically feel it coming on. So now we're at the procedure, and he's about ready to grab, I think, the 4th or 5th sample. So we're winding the procedure down, and I start feeling funny, like the pain is setting in, and my mind then starts going right to, there's a needle inside of me, I can't escape, I'm stuck, and I started panicking. So it's at that point that I grabbed my earbuds and I was like, well, I'm just going to listen to music and kind of zone out. And so as soon as I put that earbud in, I could feel myself falling, going fast. Not technically falling, I was laying down for the procedure, but I told the ultrasound technician who was on my right side, I said, I'm going to faint. And then I don't remember anything after that. As I was waking up from what I thought was fainting, I was very confused. I didn't know where I was. I remember hearing the doctor and the ultrasound tech talking about whether they should place the marker. And so let me just explain that part. After they take samples from the mass, they will typically put a marker in place in the where that mass is, so that way they can track its growth, or if it does come back malignant, they know that's the bad spot and they take that out. So it's something that you see in, what I understand, it's something that you see in a mammogram, and they actually put it through that like guide needle, and it's just like a titanium little, almost like shrapnel that goes in there just so they can track it. So I hear them talking about that, whether they should continue to do that. Ultimately, they decided not to do it, because what ended up happening is that I think I must have been so overwhelmed, I ended up having a seizure, and just kind of like, I think, went into shock a little bit, which again it's not atypical for me, but certainly for the population. And I am not telling this part of the story to scare you. I'm just sharing my experience. And so then I was there for a couple hours. They put a bandage on me. They gave me ice. They cooled me down because I was just overall, I had just experienced some kind of trauma. My body was really hot, so they cooled me down. But I did have ice on this spot. And then I went home and I went to bed. I was pretty much a zombie. So that was the procedure. My aftermath of that, because that's the first time I really experienced something. I don't know if I had a seizure. The doctor said that that's what happened. That's what it looked like. He recommended me going to another physician to see if that's, if I had some kind of issue there. I certainly am used to fainting. It did feel different than what I'm used to experiencing. So after that, I was really tired. I couldn't even think straight. I couldn't function. I was just really like staring the rest of the day. And I went home and I went to bed and I had an ice pack on for the rest of the night. But it was the next 2 days that were a little bit like, wasn't what I was expecting. Everyone told me that, you get over it quick. And the truth is, everyone that I've talked to in real life and all the other videos I find online, that's exactly what happens. People get over this very quickly. It's nothing. And I think I did get over the biopsy part quickly, but whatever I experienced, fainting, seizure, or whatever, it left me totally depleted for the next 2.5 days. My blood pressure was low. It was like 89/54 for the next 2 days. I could not get it up. Everything I tried to get up, drink salt water, I put compression socks on, I lay down, I just couldn't get it up. So that was discouraging, but also I was experiencing a lot of pain. And again, I don't handle pain well, so I have zero tolerance for pain. So it could just have been that. But I ended up about 2.5 days later feeling a lot better. I did have bruising at the site. I kept the Band-Aid on for about 36 hours and then just showered. I showered before that, but I had a waterproof Band-Aid on. So I showered and everything was fine. And I took the Band-Aid off and it's healing. It's been about a week since I've had the procedure done, and I needed to wait a little time before I started talking about it. But 7 days out, I'm feeling completely fine. No big deal at all. It's healing up nicely, and I'm feeling a lot better from fainting, and the procedure, like the little incision, that healed up really nicely. It's just a little tiny, it looks like a little cut that's healing. And then where I was allergic to the Band-Aid, I feel like that looks more dangerous than the rest, but that's also healing up quite nicely. That's my experience. I wanted to share that. I am hesitant about putting this up, but also if anyone else in the world sees this and they faint easily or whatever, I think you're not alone. I don't think it will happen to you. I hope it doesn't happen to you, but if it does, you know that you're not alone out there. Outside of that, for everyone else, the procedure is, it's really, even though my experience was off, it's really not that bad. You're in and out in an hour, hour and a half. So you can rest, and ice really helps, and Tylenol helps too. That's what they recommend, and that's what I did. I hope this helps. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching.